Welcome into Two Guys in the Mic. I am Scott, joined with Tony in the middle, Mike over there on the far side. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below as we are looking to grow the channel. We cannot do that without subscribers, so we appreciate that. And always, the subscription is free. So with that said, guys, we're going to jump right into this week one wild card playoffs. Some pretty good surprises. Obviously, the Packers taking down the Cowboys. But let's go ahead and start off with Tony's favorite game. We're going to start off with the Texans dismantling the Browns. 45-14.
Demolishing, bro. Like,
yeah, dude.
Making Joe Flacco go back to 15th string quarterback play.
Well,
he sent Joe Flacco back to his couch.
Yeah, dude, it was bad.
The one thing I think, the only thing I really felt that the Browns had going against them is Flacco had thrown an interception in every game he has played in this year. And, I mean, he ended up throwing back-to-back pick sixes. And once that happened, that game was over. But let's talk about C.J. Stroud. You know, dude, talk about not letting the story be too big. Like, he is taking this, like, in stride. He looked so good. He looked so
beautiful, man. Oh, dude, I loved it.
Him and Nico Collins have like just connection.
Now imagine if Tank Dell were there.
Yeah.
This offense would be high. I mean, they are high flying. They are.
Yeah, and they're doing it. Rookie quarterback. Nico Collins is only in his third year. You have rookie coach and D'Amico Ryans. They're very young. The sky is the limit, I think, for the future of the Texans. Now, interestingly, all three of us did believe that the Browns were going to go to Texas. They were going to win. I felt like not that the Texans, that they weren't good enough to beat the Browns, because we also said it was also a toss-up. I just felt Flacco being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, having the playoff experience that he had, the defense being as good as it is, even though that Browns defense is not quite elite on the road, but they're still really good defense on the road. I just felt like those things were going to factor in more than what they did.
Agreed.
And hats off to the Texans. They gave it to the Browns from the get-go. Go ahead.
Flacco spread the ball around. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 6 different players that had 4 catches.
Well, it's not even that. It's the Texans' defense that was able to defend that. Like, their defense was okay. I think their defense was subpar throughout the season. They weren't like, oh, they're winning games because of their defense. That's not what it was. But their defense came to play. And if they continue to play at that caliber this playoff season, I'm excited. I'm rooting for the Texans. I mean, Matt was giving me flack the whole week. You picked the Browns, you suck, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I'm here for an underdog story. The Raiders are not in the playoffs, so I could give 2 shits who wins. I want an underdog story because I hate this. Like, okay, we know who's gonna win. Everything's predictable. People are fucking great and they're gonna win. I'm like, man, look at CJ Stroud. He deserves it. If anything, and he'll make history doing it. Look at the Browns. Joe Flacco coming off the couch to take this team to like give it life to a team that's never been to the Super Bowl ever. Like, this is just one of those. I want one of those 2 stories to flourish because that's something I want to have in my life's resume, saying I saw that. I witnessed it, because I don't think in my life that I've seen so far, it's been predictable stories. I want something to come out of left field and be like, damn, no one could have called that at the beginning of the season. No one could have called the Texans this far at the beginning of the season, period.
Yeah. Now, you know what's interesting about this Ravens and Texans matchup is I'm kind of viewing it as the way the Packers-Cowboys game was. Okay, Think about Jordan Love in his last, 7 games, he was like 20-something touchdowns or something like that, the 1 pick. I can't remember the exact number. They were 7-1. Like, he was playing out of his mind. And we'll talk about the Cowboy game later, but the reason I say it kind of reminds me of this is because Lamar Jackson doesn't have that great of a track record in the playoffs. Now, I understand offensive coordinator, it's a different situation. Mark Andrews has a chance to come back, so he might be getting a big weapon back. But my whole thing is that, okay, you got a hot Texans offense. Okay, can they go into Baltimore and upset the MVP Lamar Jackson and the number 1 seeded Ravens in Baltimore? Do you guys like realistically, Tony? I understand.
Realistically, the Ravens lost to the Browns. The Texans blew out the Browns. They could do it.
Before you do that, it is divisional game. We all know division games can go. They really can go either way. Okay, so do you really believe that CJ Stroud can they go in there and can they do enough to beat the Ravens?
After what I saw, it's a possibility. I'm not going to say that's the realistic option. The realistic choice here is that the Ravens are going to win. Now, watching the Texans perform in that playoff game, they're going to make the Ravens play. The Ravens are going to come and they're going to play, and in my opinion, what that does is that puts Lamar Jackson in a position to make mistakes, which we've seen him do plenty of times. So that could work in the Texans' favor. I mean, at the end of the day, the way that the Green Bay Packers have come out of left field and the way that the Texans have come out of left field, that'd be the most random Super Bowl. I would love it. I would absolutely be all here for it.
I wouldn't. That means they don't make it.
I don't give a fuck. I'm already the bottom. Welcome. You come to my pit of despair.
Mike.
I don't know. It's completely different quarterback plays. Now you have a mobile quarterback versus Flacco, who he wasn't going to be able to run. So you knew he was going to stand. He was going to have to stand in the pocket. Now you gotta completely switch your
defense. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, your defensive tactic, and now you got to prepare for a guy that can run the ball. So I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them. And Zay Flowers has been the one that's been giving everybody trouble. They're going to need to contain Zay Flowers. Is Anderson going to be able to get pressure on Lamar Jackson? And I'm sure it's probably going to be Stingley that's going to be shadowing Zay Flowers. At that point, then you're going to have to make Odell Beckham beat you.
Well, I'll tell you this: I trust any defense is coached by DeMarco Rams. Like the way that he looked in San Francisco, and I think he's done quite well with the Texans this year. I think they're only a couple pieces away on that defense from being pretty close. They're a very underrated defense, I feel, and I think a lot of it comes down to coaching. But I think if Houston, if the Texans can go in there and they can play mistake-free football and they can put together some nice long drives and not allow Lamar Jackson and their offense to really get into any type of rhythm, I think that's going to be good. I think that's what you need to do, because if you can catch a lead and you kind of take away the Ravens' ability to continuously just run the ball, because that's what they typically do. They're a run-first offense. And I think if you put the game in Lamar Jackson's arm, that's when the Texans will have a chance to win the game. Yeah. If they come out and they can't move the ball very well, and Baltimore jumps out to just say a 10-0 lead, to say somewhere like about 10 minutes left in the second quarter, I think that's when things might start going more Baltimore's way and continue to go their way. But if you can flip it the other way, where it's maybe 10-0, 13-0 Texans, I can see Lamar Jackson coming out and not doing shit. So that's
possible. That's the only thing working against the Ravens.
So it'd be the same thing that the Bucs did tonight against the Eagles.
Yeah, well, we're jumping to that game. I got a few things I want to say about the nice little Eagles over there, but with that said, let's jump into the biggest upset, obviously, this week. Going to be the Packers taking down the Cowboys. I mean, they didn't just take them down. I mean, that was straight up an ass beating if I have ever seen one. That I felt like watching that game, like it was like the Cowboys thought they were just gonna be able to just
steamroll them.
Like the Packers were just gonna go in there and just like tuck their tail between their legs and say, "Oh, here you go, you guys get the win." That's not the way it happened. Dak Prescott looked like
terrible. He looked like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott.
No, he looked like playoff Dak Prescott.
It's true.
But
there's tears to him.
Yeah.
The thing about him is if you watch like the first half of that game, he wasn't even trying to throw the ball past 5-6 yards. It was like he was scared to throw an interception.
It just blows your mind when you watch him because you can visibly see it on the field, and you're like, what? Why is this little boy coming out and playing against men? Like that doesn't make any sense. What's happening right now? That's not who you were the past few weeks. Like you have possibly one of the top 3 wide receiver in the league right now, and you're gonna like just shit the bed. It doesn't make sense against a subpar defense. Like
he and CeeDee Lamb were not on the same page at all. Way off. The final score of that game is not an indication of how bad that game was.
Yeah,
I mean it was 48-16 at one point. You know, Dallas scored his 2 garbage time touchdowns with less than 6 minutes left.
It was in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And Dallas hadn't lost all year at home either. And for you to lose to a team that snuck into the playoffs
in week 18.
Yeah, like, and you're the number 2 seed. That shit can't happen. I'm sorry.
So I guess go ahead, finish, Scott. Sorry.
And if anyone saw my short that I made right after the game, I'm sorry, but it's time for Dallas to move on from Dak.
That was my next point.
And here's my problem. I understand that Dak plays great during the regular season, and with Dak, you are always going to make the playoffs. That's just the way it goes. They're going to make the playoffs. But the problem is that once he gets into the playoffs, he's not the same quarterback. So the way I look at it is, why would just trade? Not only that, he has a $60 million cap hit next year. Okay, for what? For the regular season, and then you're going to get into the first round of the playoffs and get knocked out again. It happens. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. You know what you're getting out of Prescott when it comes to the playoffs. Okay, I mean, the guy has thrown more interceptions than he has wins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's terrible. His last 2 games, he has 4 interceptions. The last 2 games that they've been knocked out. Last year against the 49ers, he threw 2.
It's awful. It's sad.
And he weren't like, oh shoot, that was a good play by the defender interception. That was like how'd you?
The hell are you doing?
Yeah, like how are you making that throw? Like, why are you making that throw right there? Who are you throwing to? The pick 6 blew my mind. Because there was no way he did not see the defender. I'm sorry, but the defender could have been hugging his fucking wide receiver. Like, it was just, it was terrible. But I think it's time that Jerry Jones look in the mirror and say, maybe I shouldn't be making certain decisions with this football team, and I'm going to go ahead and let the people that I hire to make certain decisions start making these tougher decisions.
But let's be real, that's not going to happen.
It won't happen. That he does not have that in him to let that happen.
And that's why
he is a person that wants to have complete control.
And that's exactly why they will always be in the situations that they're in.
Yep, and that you're not wrong, Scott. I mean, it goes back. He like what Mike said. He's a person that likes being complete control, and what he ultimately wants is he wants for the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl. And he said, and he's the one that says, "I did that. I picked those people, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. Like, all he's looking for is that one time. If it takes 50 years, he's like, or even after he's dead, he'll probably put it on his fucking tombstone. I did that."
Yeah. The other thing too is you got to get rid of Mark, right? He's gone. Obviously, he's gone. I don't know what kind of offensive play calls he was doing that game, but it was terrible. Whatever he was trying to come up with, terrible. Dan Quinn, and people are saying Dan Quinn should take over freaking the head coaching. No.
I've read reports that people want Belichick to take over the Cowboys.
Well, if he does, I can guarantee first thing he's going to tell Jerry Jones is, "This is my team." Don't.
I want to see that live. Like, he should just have a live recording, like a TikTok live, watch following him when he says that.
Belichick already met with the Falcons owner.
Oh, yeah. He did?
Well,
yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's what I would propose. If I am the Cowboys, that's exactly what I was going to say, Mike. I would call up Atlanta and see if they're willing to take Dak. They are a quarterback away from being a very successful team. Okay. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be scared if Dak was in the same conference as me because I know he's going to blow it in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But being Atlanta, would you want to take on a guy that's known to shit the bed when it matters in the playoffs?
You might sit there and say, hey, you know what? Maybe it just has to do with maybe
Change the scenery.
The Cowboys is too big of a stage.
Yep.
Okay. Let's be like, if you are the quarterback of, there's just certain teams when you're the quarterback of like the Cowboys, the Niners, the Raiders, the Chiefs. They're just like big market teams, right? I feel like there's a lot more pressure. You just go down to Atlanta Falcons. There's no pressure when you're the quarterback.
You think Jared Goff feels any pressure from the Lions?
Yeah.
After this year, yeah.
Well, yeah, but he had to build it. Now he's not going in. That's the difference, though, Mike. He didn't go into the position with that pressure. He built up a fan base. That's not pressure. That's support. There's a big difference between like what Scott's saying, going into the Niners, the Raiders, Cowboys. That's a team. And that when you go in to be that spotlight, that's pressure. But when you go into a nobody team like the Lions, who just shit the bed for the past forever, and you build that team, you're a phenomenal football player. Like, that's where Goff shined. He came and he was like, I'm going to be the quarterback I was supposed to be when they drafted me. And that's who he is. And everyone's right behind him. That's support, not pressure. I feel like that's the difference here.
Yeah. The other scenario I could think of, too, is I would call up someone like the Patriots. They have number 3 pick. Be like, hey, you want Prescott? And draft a quarterback at number 3. You know, like, you're not.
I don't think they would give Prescott for a first rounder. You're crazy.
You would be surprised as to what some people do. Okay, like I'm just.
You
saying,
think Jared Mayo's gonna fuck it up that bad?
So you want Prescott to play in the cold in a open stadium?
Yeah, that's true. But here's what I'm trying to say is that it's okay that you can let Dak go because that test run is over. You already know what you're getting with Prescott. You're going to get a good regular season, and you're going to blow it in the playoffs. The point is that you don't want to blow it in the playoffs. So what are the Cowboys jeopardizing by moving on from Dak Prescott and giving someone like, Trey Lance an opportunity? Like, what are they really jeopardizing? Tell me.
Nothing.
Getting to the playoffs.
But what does it matter if you're always losing in the playoffs?
It's still you have that opportunity, though, that you actually made it to the playoffs.
I don't care. Like, he's had enough. Like, Prescott's had enough opportunity now. That before it was like, oh well, the defense always blew it for him. Okay, they got him the top 10 defense. Shit, that defense is probably actually the top 5. All right, They got that. Well, he doesn't have enough weapons. Insert CD Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Ferguson. Well, he doesn't have a run game. Like, how many excuses are you going to make for this guy before you realize that maybe he's just a really, just slightly above quarterback? Like,
he's above average.
If you looked at all his stats, majority of his stats just came against really bad teams.
Yes,
stats against really bad teams, and his season looked way better than what it was.
It's exactly Caleb Williams. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
But at the same time, I do think the Packers also deserve a lot
of praise
because Matt LaFleur, he saw something in that defense, and he saw something in the defense because I've never seen wide receivers open like that against the Cowboys all year, and he had guys open like ridiculously open, and Love was making throw after throw. He made all the right reads. Love made all the right reads in all the right situations. Aaron Jones this was now his 3rd game against the Cowboys. Then dude, he has owned them at $123 is his average in those 3. So
Dobbs owned them too.
Yep.
Yeah. It just as much as I want to just pick on the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and McCarthy and everything, at the same time, you got to give credit where credit is due, and I really credit the Packers for they were the better coached team. They were way more prepared. And they played like they wanted it. Yep. Cowboys played like they expected it.
Yes.
So
I will say this too. One one, I think under the radar thing is Green Bay did this without any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Without any kind of participation from Jaden Reed. With as good as a season Jaden Reed had, he had 0 catches.
Have you looked into any report on how Alexander's doing? Because remember, Alexander, the Green Bay's top corner, they weren't even sure if he was going to play for that game. He re-injured his ankle I think it was the beginning of the second half.
Yeah, he aggravated the left ankle injury in the third quarter.
Yeah, so that's something to keep an eye on, because I'll tell you what, if Green Bay loses him against San Francisco, forget about it. Like,
oh yeah, that's gonna be a tough one for them to be in regardless. I think it's a different game. Well, I don't think it's like the Cowboys. I think it goes back to what you said right there at the end, Scott. Cowboys expected to win, and Green Bay brought it, and they prepared better. It was a better coached team, and Niners is not gonna be like that. They don't expect to win. I mean, we all know they're gonna win. But it's a matter of they're coming prepared. Like the Niners come prepared everywhere they go, except the middle of the season. Let's just take that out.
On the note of Jair Alexander, Tony, did you hear what he said? Scott, I told you last night.
What did he say?
He says that he puts Dak in his top quarterbacks because he throws him the ball.
what a
Damn.
So the other fun game, Rams and Lions. God, man, that's to see the way the Detroit fans were like acting at the end as Jared Goff was taking the knee was just beautiful. 32 years without a playoff win. Imagine being a fan and having to wait 32 years. Think about it, Tony. It's been what, like 23 years?
At least for me, it's been 22 years for me. So 22 years, bro. I'm 10 years from that.
Imagine another 10 years of misery.
Bitch, AP's gonna take us to the Super Bowl. Raiders.
But I'm really happy for the Lions. They played a really good game. At first, I thought this was going to be a crazy shootout.
That game was 2 completely different halves.
Yeah,
completely different halves.
Yeah, the defenses really came out and made some really good adjustments in the second half, and points were hard to come off in that second half. But Puka again, man, just setting records: 8 for 181 and a touchdown. It was the most wide receiver yards for a rookie wide receiver in the playoffs.
9 for 181.
Best rookie wide receiver ever. Is it like weird that we got the best rookie wide receiver ever?
You didn't watch Randy Moss play, dude. Randy Moss was like,
yeah, but Puka has the records. It doesn't matter. I know
Puka has the record because of 1 extra game.
Yeah,
no problem.
And he got the record in that extra game.
Tony, you are too young to understand.
I know. I get it. I understand.
Oh, my God. When Randy Moss came, oh, my God, dude, that shit was like... Dude, I enjoyed watching Randy Moss. I had nothing to do with the Vikings. I just really liked to watch Randy Moss. Like, Dante Culpepper he would do a 5-6 drop back, and he would just fling it. And you just see Randy Moss, dude. There'd be 6 guys on him. He's just like, whoop.
that meme that always say fuck it, he's got to be out there somewhere.
literally it's just like that. But congratulations. Yeah. You know what, I'm actually really happy for Jared Goff as well, because I felt when the Rams traded for Stafford, that was really just like a middle finger in his face, you know what I mean? And he had just taken them to the Super Bowl too. It wasn't like he was doing bad, you know. Mm-hmm. And for them to trade him for Stafford like that, God, man, that.
Well, you know what? It as bad as it is on the surface, it was the best for both of them. Look at how he is thriving on the Lions, and how Matthew Stafford is thriving on the Rams. I mean, Matthew Stafford was not. I mean, he was a great quarterback on a shit team, and he couldn't elevate the team. He couldn't take them anywhere on the Lions, and I don't necessarily fault Stafford for it. I felt like their coaching was consistently awful for the past 32 years. You said for the Lions,
Yeah.
I think it was just consistently awful. So Matthew Stafford never stood a chance. And so when they, I think that things just aligned for both teams and both players when they did that trade. Yeah, it was bad on the surface, kind of F you to your face for somebody who just took them to the Super Bowl. I feel like now Stafford, he's making the playoffs consistently. Now he's thriving. Now he's able to get to the playoffs and have opportunities, right? Now he's able to make Super Bowls. And you look at Jared Goff, same there, taking that team to the Super Bowl. They're thriving. They're running and gunning, and they're getting it done. And I like to see it because I feel like it worked out for everyone in the end.
And I'm going to say props to Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
For going in there and turning that team around as quickly as he has. Everybody on that team has his back.
Yep.
Yeah. But with that, let's talk about another fraud of a team, the Dolphins. Dude, I watched that game, and I mean, I expected the game. I really expected the game to go exactly how it went.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but Mike McDaniels got outcoached. Like, I mean, bad. Just the Dolphins, as good as they were, you know, they
beat nobody.
They're like we had said before, they're the Cowboys of the AFC. Like, sure, they got this nice record, and sure they beat up a team and put 70 points on a team and this and that. But you put any type of like bad weather on them or like anything under 40 degrees, okay? You put them outside and you stick a halfway decent defense in front of them, and they're nobody. And
nobody.
I
I agree.
they got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert went off this year. They got Achane. I mean, there is so many weapons on that offense. I mean, and you got to remember they traded for Jalen Ramsey, but they did lose some pieces on that defense as well. But they were just completely outmatched, and I don't think the outcome would have been any different had the weather been 70 degrees and sunny in my.
Yeah, I agree. They're not good. They just shine because of the shitty people they play.
They beat one playoff team, and it was the Cowboys by 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and the Cowboys themselves,
in Miami.
But the Cowboys themselves were a joke. Like that's an argument in itself. Like, did they really? On paper, they beat a quote unquote playoff team, but the Cowboys really are not a playoff team.
Well, someone had to win that game.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I actually think next week now, I mean, we can talk a little bit about the other games. Bills Steelers, we don't really need to talk about that. Everyone knew
what was going to happen.
Beat up on the Steelers. No TJ Watt. They got Mason Rudolph there. It's
all bad. Like, why is this team here? Like that.
Somehow Tomlin can take a bag of shit and turn it into a playoff football team. Somehow
that guy deserves coach of the century. I don't care what anybody says. Tomlin, like you said, Scott, turns fucking bag of shit into fucking playoff.
You want to hear something interesting about Tomlin? In his coaching tenure, this is the first time in his career he's entering the last season of his contract.
Now that's because he wanted this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
He has already said that he's going to discuss with his family the options
of whether he's going to continue coaching or not.
He might be done. He's made enough money. I think he's had a great career.
I retire.
Yeah, I think he just sees that the Steelers are
they're going to be mediocre.
Yeah, they have a lot of they have some good pieces, but they also have a lot of gaping holes. And the number one gaping hole they have is they need a quarterback. Shoot, send Prescott over there, but then again, it's cold weather, so who knows?
I don't know. Because I saw I got the notification that somebody asked him at his presser like about his are you scared for your job or some bullshit like that, asking him something like if he's not going to coach anymore, and he walked out.
Yeah, I saw that.
He walked out. I was like, damn, good for him, man. Like he's done nothing to deserve being talked to like that. Yeah, they didn't win, but dude look at their fucking roster.
He's done a lot for that organization too. And if next year is the end of the road for him there, it's not going to end on bad terms.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the last game, Eagles, Bucks. I didn't even think the Eagles even deserved to be in the playoffs. They had no business being in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks. I mean, when you let an NFC South team beat up on you 32-9, that tells me all I need to know about your team. I think this team gave up on Nick Sirianni, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. That locker room is broken. It's so crazy to watch what happened like one season to the next. Like that locker room is fucking broken. You read all the stories about like how AJ Brown is starting fighting with fucking Jalen Hurts and no one likes. It's just like a high school fucking locker room, and it's annoying. It's like, what is going on, guys?
Yeah,
including tonight's game after they were 10-1, they went 1-6, including tonight's game.
What happens after you play the 49ers, man? They just and Nick Bosa called it. He said, "We gave you guys a blueprint." I'm not sure what blueprint he was saying they gave him, but he said that they handed the blueprint to beat the Eagles, and apparently he wasn't lying. Because you don't go from 10-1 to 1-6 by accident after a team says, "Yeah, we just exposed you guys to the rest of the NFL." You know what I mean? So, but my question now, I don't think, Mike. We were talking about this before we started the podcast. We were talking about Nick Sirianni. Now, I agree with you because I was saying, could they move on from him? And you were like, no, I think they're probably he's gonna be on the hot seat. I agree with that, but my question is, has this always been the Nick Sirianni, and was he just saved by weak schedule and good coordinators last year? Because this year, the team didn't look like the same Eagles. Even when they were 10-1, everyone was like, this is the worst 10-1 team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Being 10-1. There's multiple games they should have lost prior to being 10-1, but the coordinators that replaced the other coordinators, they're terrible.
Terrible.
And my question is, has Nick Sirianni always been a good coach, or was he just saved because he had good coaches around him?
Saved because good coaches around him. I think that's evident at this point. But I agree with Mike. I think he did take him to the Super Bowl, so he got somewhere. I think if you put good coordinators around him again, he could probably make it happen. But I mean, he needs those good coordinators to be successful. He's not like I was going to say a freaking name and I forgot what I was going to say.
He can't carry one of those positions on his own.
Yes.
You see, and that's something that bothers me, because if you look at more of the successful coaches in the NFL, they bring a very good element to the team as far as coaching. With the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. Guru.
Yeah. And Shanahan runs through coordinators like fucking
defense coordinators.
Yeah.
Crazy.
He's also had the benefit of having really good coordinator after really good coordinator. Andy Reid, another great offensive mind. Mike McDaniels, even though we talked about them being frauds, they still did well. Really good offensive mind. He came from Kyle Shanahan. You got with the Rams, McVay, a really good offensive mind. So it's like if you look at LaFleur too with the Packers, offensive mind.
Mm-hmm.
The teams that did good throughout the season and showed up in the playoffs, the head coach brings some type of extra element to the team to where at least they can make sure that at least one side of the ball is prepared the way that they want them to be prepared for their opponent. And they let the other coordinators do what they need to do. And I think that's great. But I think when you can't bring an element to either side and make adjustments, like, for instance, again, with San Francisco, they let Wilkes stay up into the booth until we went on a 3-game losing streak. And Kyle Shanahan said, there will be no more of that. You will be on the field with the players. He made the adjustment as the head coach. And after that, everything just kind of fell in line. And that's That's what makes good coaches and successful coaches is the ones that can make small adjustments like that. And Sirianni, I don't think brings that to the table. I don't think he brings anything other than a really shitty attitude.
Yeah, he didn't bring leadership.
Yeah. So I think I don't think he makes it out of next season because I don't think the Eagles. I just don't see the Eagles really doing anything. I think the locker room, everything's great when you're winning, and you see your team who people truly are when you're not winning. And the fact that they're arguing and fighting in that locker room tells me all I need to know about the leadership inside that locker room. And I just don't think that the Eagles are going to be headed in the right directions. And I've already heard whispers of them now. They're not even sure about Hurts anymore.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. So I don't know. I think they give Hurts one more opportunity.
I think so too, but it doesn't mean that it's going to pan out.
Yeah.
The long run. So that kind of concludes the recap. So let's go over the matchups we got going on. Let's just kind of get some predictions, guys. Because
I know there's a matchup that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Real quick. I'm doing some research as to who the Eagles play next year, and I know you don't know what's happening off season, free agents, trades, draft, all that kind of stuff. Eagles at home next year. Obviously, they have the 3 division opponents, the Giants, Cowboys, Commanders. They play the Panthers, the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers, the Packers, and the Jaguars.
Oh.
On the road, the 3 division opponents, you have the Ravens, the Saints, the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Rams.
So you get to play the NFC South. I mean the NFC South, sorry.
They got a tough road schedule.
Yeah, that road schedule's tough, but their home games are fucking cake.
They could go 500 at home.
We'll talk about that next year. That's a mid-season podcast or a mid-off-season podcast.
I was jumping way ahead of schedule right now.
Well, and that's why I said no, that's a long ways down the road, but
I talk in August, talk in January.
I know.
But,
Mike already wants to go to sleep and wake up for next season.
So Texas Ravens.
I want to take Texans. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Fuck you, Scott. Fuck you, Mike. And fuck you, Matt. The Texans are going to win. You can talk shit if they lose. I'm here for the story. I'm not here for the team. I don't want to be the easy choice and be like, the Ravens are going to win. It's predictable. Yeah, obviously they have everything in their favor. But if the Texans win, I'm here for that story. Because CJ Stroud has been playing like a fucking maniac, and he deserves it.
Mike?
If the Texans play a clean game, I think they have a chance. But ultimately, I think the Ravens are going to be the better team.
Yeah, I'm going Ravens. But I think it's going to be a better matchup than probably a lot of people will give it.
I am sitting down, and I am watching this game.
What's the weather going to be like?
I don't think it's really going to matter, to be honest. I don't think the weather is going to matter so much as far as like for CJ Stroud. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Have they put that in the
28 degrees?
That's not
bad.
But it doesn't say rain or snow.
It's in Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Baltimore.
But then it's cold. I've been in that stadium for the Army-Navy game. When it was like December 10th or something. January is probably always worse, but it was like 18 degrees with like a freaking 20-degree wind chill.
A circling wind.
Yeah, because it's a boat. It's in the bay, so the wind circulates in the stadium. Dude, it's cold.
Tony, you're from California. You think anything under 40 degrees is cold?
Stop fucking hating.
No, he's from Southern California.
I've been to Wisconsin in January. I know what cold feels like, and it's not fun.
I went to fucking Alaska for New Year's 5 years ago. That shit was cold, bro. Negative 40 degrees ain't no joke.
I know, but these guys live for it, man.
Is that when your balls go so far up, they're on your chin?
I didn't even have them the whole trip. They were gone.
All right, so what about the Chiefs Bills? This is a game I'm really looking for.
So this is what I wanted to bring up. Bill, it's at home for the Bills, right?
Yes. Once.
Bills. Let's go Bills. I hate the Chiefs. Fuck them.
I'm going Bills.
I got Bills too, and I think, but in order for this to happen, Josh Allen cannot have one of those oops, I can't stop turning the ball over game because the Chiefs do have a legitimate their defense is legit.
Yeah.
They're one of the top scoring defenses in the NFL, and I was waiting for them to falter for a long time, and it never happened. And
Are you afraid that Josh Allen played that card today?
no,
Clean game today.
he played a clean game against the Dolphins too. He might be on the string, but I think this game is going to mean a lot to Josh Allen because he has not been able to get past Mahomes in his career.
Make or break a game for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really needs the ball out, but I think I give the Bills a really good shot, and I want to see the Bills. Chiefs, obviously, it's really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes, but that offense just feels so different this year without having like Rashee Rice is finally
Breaking out.
Yeah, he's showing this. Got Travis Kelce.
We also can't ignore all the fucking bullshit that the refs are doing for Mahomes. Like if Mahomes does not get fined for targeting this week, it's rigged. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. They're like I've been reading all the news and stuff. Like I've been reading like people's examples. They're like, look at this hit. It's the exact same hit that some defensive player did, and like. In the past, this season, all these hits were from this season, and they got like fined. He needs to be like treated as a normal person in the NFL. I don't give a fuck if he's a quarterback.
Here's my question: how did they get away with the helmet change without having to call a timeout?
Exactly. That's on camera, bro. They do it in front of your face, and nobody cares. It's just crazy.
Anyways, we all got Bills, but.
Fuck the Chiefs.
It's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes, man. I think I'm at that point where I'm just tired of seeing the Chiefs year in and year out in the conference championship. I'd like to see some other teams go at it, man. Mm-hmm. It would be wonderful to see something like a Bills matchup. That'd be a great story. But
here's the question: is Kadarius Toney inactive again?
Yes.
That might actually help them. That actually is part of the reason that the Chiefs were so in that game. Outside of the Dolphins suck, but like I read something about Kadarius Toney not showing up being the best thing that happened to the Chiefs all year.
Yeah, you don't have a guy out there that's going to drop the ball when it matters.
Yeah. Packers 49ers.
Niners.
I got to think about this one. Niners.
I got Niners, but I don't think Packers are going to make it easy for them.
No, it's a good game.
I think Packers are going to come out. I mean, obviously after spanking the Cowboys, like you got to be on an all-time high. Now you cannot compare the type of players that they're going to like. Niners has 7, Pro Bowlers going, and you could even argue Ayuk should have been a Pro Bowl. He didn't make it, but I think on offense. It's easy for them to stick. It's easy for the Packers to stick Alexander on CD Lamb, like, hey, take their number 1 away. But when you playing a team like the 49ers, when you have, McCaffrey, you got Kittle, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, and the other thing too is that they kept saying like Prescott didn't have anywhere to throw the ball. He had to throw into tight windows, which is not Prescott's game. I believe Purdy still held on to it, but. He was actually number 1 in completions and tight window throws. So even if it's sticky coverage, he's still getting the ball in there. So, and I think in order for the Packers to win this game, they're going to have to put up probably a good 33 to 37 points.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a shootout against. I mean, when you compare the defenses, like it's not a comparison, right? Like the Niners defense is just top tier. It's either going to be a one-sided blowout, or it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't see it being a shootout from the Packers. I just don't.
The only thing that I'm a little bit afraid of. Don't forget, pretty much all the starters have had 2 weeks off now. Is there going to be any rest? It's also a blessing. It's also a blessing though. You had a lot of guys that had nagging injuries. And they've had a chance to rest up.
It's the same thing coming out of your bye week. Like now, I understand a lot of them rested against the Rams as well. But it's the same come out of your bye week. Look how good they looked against Jacksonville when they came out of the bye week. So I think with a lot of the little injuries that they had, I think they needed this rest. Like McCaffrey banged up. Armstead is a huge piece on that defensive line. He was banged up. We had some
Trent Williams was hurt.
Yeah, we had some injuries on the back end. Offensive line was a little banged up. I really think the 49ers needed that rest. And, and then like what we said earlier with Alexander, top corner for the Packers, him being banged up. Obviously, any game you play, you're going to be banged up afterwards. And the 49ers is an extremely physical team. So, and that's something that the Cowboys aren't known for. So the Packers are going to have to find a way to match the aggressiveness that the 49ers have. So we're seeing. I think it's going to be a decent game, but I think probably by the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, I can see the 49ers start to pull away from that game. And then I think with the Bucs-Lions, I got kind of the same thing. I think the Bucs, they'll show up a little bit, and I don't think it's going to be that close of a match. I just think the Lions at home, I mean, they beat the Rams, who I think the Rams are, when you look at the Rams and the Bucs, I would take the Rams all day as being the better team. So I got the Lions.
Lions run away, in my opinion. And they're high. They are fucking high as a kite right now, and they are going to fly. I want to see how far they go. I'm here for it.
They have both. I just looked right now at the over-unders. They have both of the NFC games as the highest over-unders.
I think the Niners are 10, aren't they? Favored by 10?
That's the spread. Yeah, Niners are favored by 10, but the over-under is 50.5. The over-under on the Lions Bucks game is 48.5.
I could actually see. I think that game goes into the 50s. I think that game has a better chance of going into the 50s only because neither team has an elite.
Buccaneers defense showed up today though too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a quarterback that didn't have a working hand, sure, and they didn't have one wide receiver. I mean, I didn't expect the Eagles to put up much of a fight anyway, so is what it is. But you guys got anything else you guys want to add before we go?
No. Good. I'm excited for this weekend. Watching that Texans game.
Should be fun. So, okay. Well, thank you for listening. And we will see everybody. We record on Mondays. Drops on Tuesday. So we will see everyone next Tuesday. Peace.
See ya.